My mind, one of the most important things that a president does is make cabinet appointments. The same is true of a prime minister and other heads of government, because these are the men and women that will be making decisions affecting millions of lives. And there should be a focus on meritocracy. What Trump has done with these cabinet picks is chosen yes men and women, people who will be absolutely subservient to him. Now, of course, a president has executive power. Of course, you can't lead from the back. You need people who will respect you. But there also has to be a degree of free thought. That is to say, people who will challenge you when they think you're wrong, people who will offer their own thoughts and ideas, particularly if they have expertise in a particular field. Donald Trump wants absolute subservience within the military as well. That's dangerous. Donald Trump has zero military experience. Generals do. So for him to want absolute subservience is not a good sign. Now, there's a lot can be said about these cabinet picks. I'm not going to go through every single one because it would take too long. But the only one that I've seen, prominent one that I'm kind of okay with, is Marco Rubio, on the grounds that Rubio at least isn't an isolationist. Rubio has been outspoken on dictatorships, particularly regarding China and Cuba. So I give him credit for that. And I could see worse than Marco Rubio being Secretary of State, and it's a big role. So that's the only pick I could see that's half okay. But some of the others are utterly appalling. Matt Gaetz, a man who has significant criminal allegations over his head, including child trafficking, drug use, and underage sex. I mean, those are not small things. And Trump's nominated him to be Attorney General. Robert Kennedy Jr., a well-known conspiracy theorist who is anti-vax. Now, some of the things he says about Big Pharma may be legitimate enough. There is a question there about accountability of power and so on, but just vilifying all of Big Pharma, I think, is short-sighted, particularly when often a lot of the big pharmaceutical companies are based in the United States. That would inevitably have implications for the rest of the world. If you have a health secretary who's so hostile to that. He's also proposed that chlorine should be taken out of water, despite the fact, chloride, despite the fact it's been proven to be good for enamel in children, in the teeth of children. A man who says we shouldn't listen to health professionals and throws a dead bear in a forest doesn't seem like someone who should be in charge of the healthcare of millions of people. I think he's an appalling pick. And for me, one of the worst of all is Tulsi Gabbard. Trump has proposed her to be the Director of National Intelligence. Now, I've just watched an interview with John Bolton on CNN, and he's called it the worst cabinet pick until Gaetz was named. I get it. A lot of people don't like John Bolton. They see him as a hawk in the Bush administration. But I think he does have a lot of experience, and I think he does make a lot of reasonable points. He's a conservative Republican. I'm not going to agree with John Bolton on everything, and I remain very critical of some of the Bush doctrine, the war on terror. The invasion of Iraq was a disaster, no question about it. But Bolton is right to say that Gabbard is a terrible pick. This is a woman who has some military experience, but she has no experience in intelligence. This is a woman who has consistently blamed the West first, a woman who has consistently served as an apologist for foreign dictators. Her visit to Assad when he was raining barrel bombs on children is a complete lack of moral judgment. She said that he's not the enemy of America, maybe not directly, but given his ties with Russia, that shows a lack of understanding of the geopolitical situation there. And as, I'll just get his name right, Sean Turner, the former Director of Communication, I'm just looking at the screen here, of US National Intelligence, said you need someone in this role who understands what's going on, who is a steady person. I don't think Gabbard is. You know, she makes a lot about being against forever wars. She sort of pretends to be this pacifist, but she has nothing to say about Russian aggression. This is the sheer hypocrisy of MAGA people. They talk about Biden starting World War III because he's given the green light for Ukraine to defend itself with long-range missiles. but they have nothing to say about Russian warmongering. The hypocrisy is sickening. So for Gabbard to be in this position, I think it is very worrying. I just hope that Republicans in the Senate get some backbone and refuse these people, particularly Kennedy, Gabbard, and Gaetz. They absolutely have no business being in the position that they're nominated for. I mean, it's ironic. They spoke about Harris just being a DEI pick and having no experience. These people have no experience, really, of the positions they're being nominated for. I mean, with Kennedy, he's a conspiracy theorist. That's not experience. With Gabbard, she has no experience in the intelligence field, and she really, really does have positions in Russia which raise questions. I mean, the irony is, if she was a left-wing Democrat, you could be absolutely sure right-wing Republicans would be calling her a communist traitor. This is a bizarre situation we're in, whereby pandering to Moscow is somehow seen as a good thing. It's a complete reverse of the Reagan years, where Republicans were actually genuinely patriotic in that sense. It's a strange form of patriotism where you get MAGA Republicans who think it's patriotic and putting America first to appease the Russian tyrant, to let him do what he wants. Very strange. I absolutely don't trust Tulsi Gabbard. I made a video a few years specifically about her when she was coming out with this stuff, and I got attacked by her supporters, and they called me a warmonger and so on, even though I actively opposed the Iraq war at the time. War is a grave thing and it should be a last resort, but there's nothing pacifist about appeasing warmongering dictators like Putin. That's not a pacifist position. I think Gabbard has shown what she is, a woman without moral judgment, because the fact that she cannot bring herself to condemn dictators slaughtering their own civilians is really quite telling. In the case of Assad, she finally did grudgingly say, oh, well, if he's done it, we should condemn him. But it was only because of the pressure she was facing. I really do question her moral judgment. And if she was going on a fact-finding mission, would it not have made sense to meet Assad's opposition if she was really going there in a neutral capacity? I don't buy it for a second. So there have been unsuccessful nominations to cabinet level. I hope Kennedy, Gaetz and Gabbard are refused. Some of the others I don't know so much about, but certainly those three, I hope they get rejected, because this is about millions of lives. It's about American national security. It just goes without saying, don't put someone who has parroted Russian propaganda in the heart of national security. It's just a no-brainer. I'll put a link to the interview, but I think these are appalling cabinet picks, and it says a lot about Donald Trump's judgment. He wants to be surrounded by yes men and women, not people who will actually be efficient at what they do. And maybe Kennedy will do some really sweeping and reckless things, we'll see. But I think these are appalling picks, with the possible exception of Marco Rubio.